In this session, please note everything I say is my own personal opinion. It has nothing to do with Airbnb. That's me, Prayas Chaudhary. I'm based in Edinburgh and I've been a host since 2016. At the moment, I'm managing 140 properties across 9 countries in the world. Over the last 4 years, I've gathered 730 5-star reviews from guests. I'm an Airbnb ambassador for over 8 months now, and I also run a website called bnbspecialist.com. This is the agenda for the meeting. We will be going into detail for getting started with Airbnb, the things you need to keep in mind when you're getting started with Airbnb. And then in the second session, I'm going to explain how Airbnb works, the intricacies you need to understand. In the third chapter, I will be doing the practical hosting tips which you need to understand. And towards the end, we will have a question and answer session. We will try and take as many questions as we can in this 1 hour. Right, I'll just crack on with the first one. The first slide I like to share is Airbnb versus long-term hosting. Of course, we all have properties which we are considering renting it on Airbnb, and this is what I think gives you an advantage over Airbnb compared to a long-term renting. The first one is higher returns. If you do it right, you can expect higher returns. In Edinburgh, I've been doing Airbnb myself for 4 years, and I've been getting about 2 to 3 times the return I would have got over a normal tenancy if you do it the right way. The second advantage is you get frequent access to the property. Unlike a long-term tenant, you need to take an appointment. You cannot go there more than 6 months. You will get to access your property more often because there will be people coming in, going out multiple times a week. You can go in between the changeovers. The next one is address maintenance issues. Your cleaner, or if it is you who's going to be looking after the cleaning, you will be accessing the property. You will be going into each nook and corner of the property. On Airbnb, you won't be relying on your tenant to tell you what's going on, what is wrong in the property. You will be able to spot them right away. In my own properties in Edinburgh, it's been 4 years. They look exactly the same the day I started it. They're in very good condition. So I believe that is an advantage of doing an Airbnb. Regular cleaning, your cleaners will be going there to clean the property multiple times. Less wear and tear. That's again, I believe that's my personal opinion. People are either here for work or for leisure. They either spend all their daytime at the place of their business, or they spend most of the time visiting places. They just come at the house or apartment in the evening to crash. So in that way, if you look at it, the property is used less compared to a long-term tenant who is just staying over there all the time. There are additional tax benefits. I'm going to talk about the tax benefits in the following slides. And Airbnb also gives you host protection, which I'm going to touch upon in the next few slides as well. So this is what I believe is a huge advantage of doing Airbnb compared to a long-term renting. The next one is, how is Airbnb different? There are lots of websites you would have seen. There is Booking.com, VRBO, Expedia. Lots of websites, but there are few key things which makes Airbnb stand out from the others. The first one is rent a shared or entire space. Airbnb is the only website where you can rent a shared space within your own house. If you have a room, you can rent it on Airbnb. You can be living in the rest of the property. No other website allows you to do that. The next one is, it doesn't mean all the properties are shared properties. About 70% of the properties on Airbnb are entire properties. Both traveler and host review each other. That's again a very big advantage. On most of the other websites, now they're starting to copy Airbnb, but on Airbnb, the host gets to review the guest and the guest reviews the host. So they both create an ecosystem which creates a system of trust. You can see where the guest has been staying previously, what the previous host had to say about them, and all those things. So yes, there is a review-based system. The next one is no fake reviews. On Airbnb, it's impossible for someone to write a fake review. They have to have a genuine booking, and they should have stayed in the property to be able to write a review. No one can write a fake review about about a property. If you look at the other websites, it is very common. People do manage to get fake reviews, but on Airbnb, it is not possible. Host insurance is another one thing. No other website gives you the kind of insurance which Airbnb provides. It gives you damage protection and liability insurance as well. VRBO claims they give the same kind of insurance, but they do not. That is only liability insurance. They do not give you a damage insurance. So Airbnb is the only website which gives you up to £1 million of damage protection. Next one is 4 stages of Airbnb hosting. This is, I believe, are the 4 stages. The first one is planning. The second one is setup. So we will go through the first 2 stages in this session. I will leave the next 2 for you to read. You can go onto my website and I will be able to share the link with you and you can read for the rest. So starting with planning, the first one is check Airbnb regulations in your area. It's very important. Before we start doing an Airbnb, we should all find out if there are any restrictions in our city, in our country on Airbnb. And you do not have to go to Google and find that information from an unreliable source. Airbnb has a central repository where they keep track of every city where they operate in. And on that link, you will be able to go and read everything which you need to know before you start to host. I will be sending that link to you, so do not worry about that at the moment. But yes, please do not look for any random resource on Google. There is a repository maintained and looked after by Airbnb. The next one at the stage of planning is financial viability. You need to keep in mind, Airbnb is not real estate, it's hospitality. Your income will fluctuate at times. It is totally different from a normal tenancy where you get a fixed rent every month. On Airbnb, you will have ups and downs. You will have lean periods. You will have very, very busy periods. For example, in Edinburgh, we make about half of the rent, monthly rent, in January, but we make about 4 to 5 times the rent in August, which is the peak season. So you will need to keep that in mind, that the income will fluctuate at times. So that's financial viability you will have to think. Suitability is the next one. You'll need to make sure there is someone living around the property. In my personal advice, try and stay within 30 minutes of the property. If it is more than that, in my personal opinion, it becomes a hassle with time, because you would want to go and see the property, but if it is far away, then it kind of starts drifting away. That's one. The second one is make sure the guest will be able to access the property easily. You need to see whether it is easy to navigate to the property. Are there many locks people have to open? Are there many gates people have to open? So that kind of suitability you will need to see whether it will fit for someone visiting the city. The next one is identify the processes. Extremely important. You will need to make sure in your brain, you'll have to make a picture of how the people are going to come, where they're going to collect the keys from, who's going to be my cleaner, how they're going to come, when they're going to clean, who's going to do my linen. So you will have to set up all these processes in your brain before you start actually doing it. At this point, it is very important. Getting the guest to your door and checking them in smoothly is 50% of the battle won on Airbnb. Extremely important. So please try and make sure you identify these processes. Key handover and cleaning. I'll move on to the next step, is the setup stage. So once you have decided, it ticks all the boxes, then you can start furnishing the property. And I will touch upon a few key things you will need to keep in mind when furnishing the property in the following slides. Get photographs. You will at some point need to get your property photographed. Create an Airbnb listing. Set up key handover process. And I'm going to touch upon the options you will have for key handover process. Get home emergency cover. That's I recommend. Try and get a landlord's insurance. I've got a British Gas landlord insurance for my properties, which covers all the electrical appliances in the house, and it also includes plumbing and everything. I don't have to worry about things going wrong. What I do is just stick the number in somewhere in my property, and then the guest can call directly that number without having to involve me in between. And then British Gas sends the engineer whenever, as soon as possible. The next one is ensure property is fire safe. Absolutely. Please make sure everything you have in your property to keep people safe and secure in your property. Fires, you need to have fire alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, heat detectors, and all those kind of things, which are mandatory in UK anyway for rental properties. But Airbnb will not check these things. It is your responsibility to make sure it complies with the local rules. Set up cleaning fee and a linen service. That's again, make sure you have someone who looks after the cleaning. And if you take my advice, try and find the same person doing the linen as well. I did the same mistake a couple of years back. I had a different person doing the cleaning and another party doing the linen. It becomes extremely complicated because the cleaner is there. They've taken off the old dirty laundry and now they need the fresh laundry. They're waiting for the next guy to come. And the next guy has to come and pick up the dirty laundry as well. So it becomes very, very difficult. Try and get the same person to do the cleaning and the laundry as well. Even if the cleaner doesn't wash the linen, you can just speak to a laundrette nearby and the cleaner can pick up and drop on their way to the property. So try and find something of that sort, because getting two parties involved in cleaning is going to create a lot of problems later on. You need to have an on-call handyman and a locksmith. Do not be alarmed by that. I've never had to use either of them, but it's better when you're starting, just speak to someone locally, show them the property and say, look, this is my property. I may give you a call at some point if it's an emergency and I'm not able to visit. Can you come and sort things out? Not more than that. You don't have to sign an elaborate contract or anything. Just keep a few guys in your wings. Next one is prepare cleaning checklist. Extremely important again. You will need to have a cleaning checklist which you follow or your cleaners follow. Ideally, you should have a regular cleaning checklist, all the 15 things which you want to do every time the cleaner comes in the room. And then you will have a deep cleaning which you can do every 3 or 6 months, which, cleaning the tops of cupboards, for example, and that kind of stuff. So make sure you have 2 kinds of cleaning checklists to go over. And the last one is a setup payment process. Extremely important again, in my experience. And if I had to recommend something to you, try and keep one bank account purely for Airbnb business. It becomes extremely complicated if you're using your common bank account, because there will be lots of transactions happening back and forth from your account. Airbnb will be paying, you'll be paying cleaners, you'll be paying utilities. At the end of the year, it makes a lot simpler for your accountant if you just send him the bank statement and that's it. He knows exactly what you've earned from Airbnb. It also keeps things simple for you. You can just open your bank account and see how your business is doing. It's an open running book for you. Extremely handy tip. Try and use that if you can. I'm going to skip the next two stages. Next one is how Airbnb works. In this chapter, I'm going to touch upon various key factors which you need to keep in mind. The first one is tax benefits. There are two major tax benefits for doing Airbnb. If you are renting a space within your main home, that's called rent a room scheme. You get 7,500 per year tax rebate. You don't have to pay tax on that income. That's when a space in your main home. But if you're doing if you're renting an entire property, if you have a second home or a second property you're starting to rent, there is HMRC. It's called in HMRC terms, it's called furnished holiday let. You can Google FHL HMRC, and the first link will lead you to the HMRC page where they explain the basic criteria how properties qualify for an FHL property. The two major criteria is the property should be available for people to book 210 nights in a year, and someone should have booked 105 nights in that year. That qualifies your property for a furnished holiday let from HMRC view. The advantages are you get capital gain tax relief. Also, if you're doing a normal tenancy, nowadays you can no longer show if you're let's say if you're setting up a new kitchen or if you're installing a new bathroom, you can no longer show that as an expense. But if you're running an Airbnb, which is a furnished holiday let, that is classed as an expense, so you can show that as an expense. You get lots more other things, entrepreneurs relief, and other equipment fixtures are shown as an expense. Profit counts as earnings for pension purposes and all those things. Try and speak to your accountant, and also you can refer to that link, FHL HMRC. Just Google it. The first link will lead you to the page. I'm not an accountant, so please speak to your accountant before you do anything. The next one is Airbnb pricing model, how the pricing works. Airbnb takes 3% from hosts and 12 to 18% from the people who will come and stay in your property. 12 to 18% varies. It's not very clear when it is 12 and when it is 18. I think it is based upon the amount of the booking and the length of the booking and those kind of things. For the sake of this conversation, let's say it is 15%. So Airbnb will be taking 15% from the guest and 3% from you. In simple terms, if you're renting a property for £100 a night, the guest will be paying 115 and Airbnb will be paying you £97. That's the simple view. When you get a booking, you will get a snapshot like this. I took this snapshot this morning. This is how it will look to you. I'm selling this apartment for £103 a night, so 309. Cleaning fee you can add, so cleaning fee is always on top. Not always, you can choose to. Most of the people do charge cleaning fee on top. And then the guest service fee, so that is the 15% which Airbnb has charged on top of the total price. So the guest has paid £432. And when paying me, Airbnb, I was running a promotion, which you can ignore. They paid me the cleaning fee and the nightly rate, and they took 3% in the end while paying me. So they paid me $356. Guest paid $432, and I got paid $356. Roughly the 18% in between is what the Airbnb margin is. So that's how the pricing model on Airbnb works. How reviews work on Airbnb. When someone comes and stays at your property, a couple of hours after they check out, they will receive a message saying, do you want to review your host and the property you stayed in? At the same time, they will also send a notification to you asking you to review how the guest was. You can see that is the kind of notification on the left side. At the bottom left, you will see that kind of notification you will get. You will have 14 days to write a review for each other. If you both write a review within those 14 days, the review becomes public immediately. If one person writes a review and the other doesn't, that review becomes public after 14 days. You will not be able to delete a review on Airbnb. No matter how many calls you make, unless the person has they violated the basic terms, they've been abusive or they've been discriminatory in the review, Airbnb will not be able to remove the review. So Airbnb reviews stick. They will not remove it, no matter how offensive or how offended or how bad you feel because someone didn't like the property and that kind of stuff. And as I said, no fake reviews on Airbnb. Someone has to book the property to be able to write a review after the checkout. Next one is Airbnb cancellation policies. There are 4 cancellation policies: flexible, moderate, strict, and long-term. Flexible is 24 hours notice, so people can cancel their booking 24 hours before they are due to arrive, and they get 100% refund. Star, I'm going to come to that. The same is for moderate, it's 5 days, and strict is 14 days. Now, when I said star is, people think that if I set flexible, people are going to misuse that flexibility I'm offering them. People will just cancel at the last minute, or people will just book multiple places and wherever the sun is, they will go and cancel everything else. It's not that easy. Airbnb does not let them go so easily. The 15% service fee, which I was talking about, although Airbnb refunds them the night rate, but Airbnb doesn't give them the service fee. So people who cancel will still lose that 15%. So it's highly unlikely that people will try and misuse it. they will genuinely have a concern or they're not able to travel for some reason. So try and set flexible or moderate if you can. Strict is I wouldn't recommend, because if you set a strict cancellation policy, people like flexibility these days. Almost every hotel you will see does offer a flexible cancellation policy. So try and be as flexible as you can. Not just Corona times, people do want flexibility nowadays. They don't know what's going to happen a couple of months down the line. So if you set it too strict, you will notice you're not getting too many bookings up in the future. Most of the bookings you will be getting are just the last minute or within few days of the stay. The fourth one is a long-term cancellation policy. This you cannot choose. It is automatically applied on a booking which is at least 28 nights. That is long-term cancellation policy. You cannot choose it. And if someone books a stay of 28 nights or more and they cancel it, you will be paid 1 month's rent after that. That's fixed. That's a long-term cancellation policy. It's simple. You cannot choose it. And you will get 1 month's rent paid to you. Let's say if someone booked for 6 months and they cancel it after a week, you will be paid 1 month's rent. And it will be, your property will be available for other people to book as well. Next one is how cleaning fee works on Airbnb. Cleaning fee is, Airbnb was the first company to come up with this concept, because most of the people who are hosting on Airbnb are people like us. They have a spare property and we do employ cleaners, or we spend our time cleaning it. We are not a business as such. We can charge cleaning fee on Airbnb. It's very common. 95% of the people on Airbnb do charge cleaning fees. So please do not hesitate. People are used to seeing cleaning fee on Airbnb, and I would recommend you charge a cleaning fee. It includes labor. If you're employing a cleaner to do it for you, whatever you pay the cleaner. For example, in Edinburgh, I pay £45 to my cleaners to do cleaning and linen. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. I pay them £30 for their labor, and £15 they pay to the laundrette they use for washing the linen. The cleaning fee should also include any cleaning supplies or essential items you're providing, like toilet rolls, tea, coffee, sugar, that kind of stuff. If you take my tip, try and keep the cleaning fee at the actuals. Please do not try and overcharge on cleaning, because at some point when people do shortlist a couple of properties, you do not want your cleaning fee to stand out. That's one thing. Try and keep it simple. Try and keep it to the actual cost, and I believe it will go a long way. If you want a starting point, you can just look in your area and see how much other people are charging. Do not look for properties who are managed by big managed companies. I've seen someone charging £130 for a 2-bedroom apartment in Edinburgh, purely because it was managed by a professional agency. They had their office costs and all that. So look for someone who's managing it themselves, and you can, from there you can get a fair idea of how much the cleaning fee for your property should be. The next one is, can you choose who gets to stay in your property? And the answer is yes. You will have an option. It's called instant booking. You can set instant booking off. That means anyone who wants to stay in your property has to send you a request first. You will get an opportunity to speak to them on the chat. You can ask them whatever you want, whatever you need to ask them. Once you're happy with their answers and you're satisfied, you can press accept, and only after that their reservation will be confirmed and they will be able to come to your property. But if you switch instant booking on, that doesn't mean anyone can book. You will still have some control. When you keep instant booking on, there are 2 options Airbnb gives you to choose from, and I recommend keeping them on. The 2 options are government ID. Airbnb should have verified the person's government ID. And the second is, the person should have stayed somewhere on Airbnb and has a positive review from someone who has stayed in the past. So I recommend keeping it on. for people who have submitted their government ID and have stayed on Airbnb previously, they should be able to book straight away without having to accept, without waiting for your acceptance, and anyone else will have to send you a booking request. Airbnb will do all that automatically for you, and you can answer them, you can question them, whatever you need to. So that you have that level of control on Airbnb. Next one is most common guest demands. So you will need to think at this point, what is your answer going to be? People do ask for discount very, very often. It's up to you whether you want to offer a discount. I personally do not give a discount because my prices are very competitive. Only on exceptional circumstances, I do give a discount, but generally, it's your personal choice. The next one is early check-in and late checkout. It's a very, very commonly asked question. 80% of my guests do ask for an early check-in or late checkout, and I wouldn't recommend you do so. The main reason is the Airbnb protection insurance covers you and your property from the start time of the booking to the end time of the booking. If you let the guest check in earlier than the check-in time or later than the checkout time, it creates complications, it voids your insurance. Try and not make this a habit. But I personally allow a few exceptions. If someone is traveling with little kids or an elderly parents, I do allow them sometimes, but I do not make this a habit to let everyone come in and check in early, even if the property is ready. This is for to protect your interests. Sometimes I do allow the guest to leave the luggage. If my cleaner is there, they can leave the luggage and come back after the check-in start time. So try and think over all these things, what you're going to do, what is the best option for you. The next one is, can you provide breakfast? People especially who are new to Airbnb, they believe just because of its name, they think everyone on Airbnb serves breakfast. Feel free to say no. No one provides breakfast. At least 98% of the people on Airbnb do not provide breakfast. You can put cereals if you want, but it is not mandatory, and it is very, very common that people don't provide breakfast, so no pressure on that. I'll move on to the next slide. What not to do on Airbnb. Don't share your contact details with people. And unfortunately, now I've seen a lot of people message you on Airbnb saying, hey, can you give me a phone number? I want to book your property. Or can you give me your address? Please do not share your contact details or do not try to speak to someone outside Airbnb. You can just politely message them back saying, look, if you have any queries, feel free to ask me here. I'm happy to answer any queries you have about my property. If you speak to them outside Airbnb, you're exposing yourself to risk. If you accept a booking outside Airbnb, you're not protected. Airbnb will share their phone number once the booking is confirmed, and that's okay. But until the booking is confirmed, please do not try to speak to someone outside Airbnb. Airbnb monitors the chat. If they find this out, there are going to be penalties. The next one is communicate with guests outside Airbnb. So there will be times you will need to speak to your guest outside Airbnb. Let's say if it's an emergency and they can't find the keys, something like that. Yes, keep your phone handy, answer the phone, speak to them, absolutely fine because they're confirmed. But at the end, try and summarize what you spoke with the person in the Airbnb chat, because that creates a record. That creates a record for Airbnb to refer if they need to later on, if something goes wrong. So even if you do need to communicate with the guest outside Airbnb, please try and summarize everything in the chat after the conversation. It's a good habit. The next one is accept cash or payments outside Airbnb. Very common. People do try and pay outside Airbnb. You will see someone is staying for 2 nights and he will say, hey, well, I want to stay for another night. Can I pay you cash? Please do not do that, is my advice, because you're exposing yourself to risk. You will not be covered for Airbnb insurance. The first thing, if Airbnb finds out, you will be banned from their platform. And the third one is, if the guest breaks something, you will have nowhere to go. So please do not try and do that. And the last one is discriminatory language or abusive language. So please never ever try to use words which you shouldn't. That's it can get you banned very, very quickly. The next one is must-have amenities to provide. This is a quick list of essentials everyone expects in an Airbnb. 1 towel per guest. And towels, especially, I recommend if you're at that stage where you're thinking of buying towels, I recommend from Costco. They are very reasonable price and the very good quality. You do not have to look for a hotel kind of website or anything. Costco does amazing towels. Try and have a look. So 1 towel per guest, 1 pillow, linen for each guest, and Wi-Fi is the next very common thing. People do expect to have this at every property they go to. So try and provide Wi-Fi as much as you can. It's very, very important for people nowadays. And the next 4 items are smoke alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, fire extinguisher, and first aid kit for safety reasons. Try and keep them at a place where people can see. For example, first aid kit, they should be able to reach, but it shouldn't be so easy for kids to reach as well. So, be reasonable when you're placing it. The next list is standout list. These are the 5 things I recommend which will help you stand out, which means you will get more bookings compared to your neighbor. The first one is self-check-in. Try and provide self-check-in to people. It's not just because of COVID. I've always seen this. People prefer a self-check-in option. They do not want to speak to someone when they're coming. They do not want someone to give them a tour of the property after 6 hours of flight. They just want to pick up the keys and get into the property and get on with their business. So try and provide self-check-in options. And I will come to the possible options for that in the next slide. Laptop-friendly workspace. Please try and provide a desk and chair. Very simple thing, but people prefer that. Even if someone is not for business, they want a desk and chair. People carry their laptops with them, iPads with them. Try and provide a desk and chair. Very important. A free parking, if you can. Again, amazingly important, especially in UK, where parking is not so readily available. Pet-friendly spaces. I would recommend, if you can, try and accommodate pets, because not many people do allow pets in the properties. It will help you stand out. People traveling with pets are more responsible than we think. They look after the property very well. They understand their responsibilities. They stay for longer. They do not come generally for 1 or 2 nights. They will be there for 5, 6 nights, 3, 4 nights. So they tend to stay longer and they pay more because they understand they're traveling with pets. So they have to pay a premium for that. If you can, please make your property pet friendly if you can. The next one is instant book. So try and make your property instant bookable. People do not want to wait. They want to know straight away whether they will be able to stay at your property and start making their travel plans and all that. So if you can, please make your property instantly bookable. That will be a big tick for people to place a booking on your property. The next one is recommend, but don't provide third-party services. I learned this very early on in my Airbnb hosting. If someone, and people will ask you for a taxi, and I used to think I'm going to send a taxi to airport to pick up my guests and all that. You do not want a review on Airbnb if the taxi was late or if the salon didn't give a nice haircut. Absolutely give them recommendations, pass them the information, pass them the website, phone numbers, but never ever try to arrange things for them. Please do not book a taxi for them. Just pass them the number and then let them sort it out. Do not book a restaurant reservation, salon, that kind of stuff. So you know what I mean. So give them the information and then let them decide. Please do not arrange things for the guest. Identify key handover process. There are 4 key things you can do. First one is a lockbox. It's a £15, very simple lockbox you can buy from Amazon. It does the job. 90% of the properties, at least in Edinburgh, run on that £15 lockbox. It's police safe. It's not very easy to break in. People just come in, you give them a code, they open it, it has a combination lock on it, they open it, get the keys, and into the property. Very simple, does the job, and not expensive. The next one is a smart lock you can install on the property, on the flat door. Smart locks are smarter than we think nowadays. They speak to Airbnb. So on my property, I've got smart locks. Whenever someone books my property, the smart lock sends them a code which is only valid for the duration of their stay, and it becomes invalid as soon as the checkout time arrives. So they're very smart. I have a code which I give to my cleaner. Cleaner can come only during the cleaning times. They cannot access the property any other time. And I get to see from my phone who's coming into my property. I can open the door from my phone, and all that clever stuff. So yeah, smart lock is an option if you don't mind spending a bit. They cost about from £150 to £450 at various levels. But if you can try and get a smart lock, it gives you a lot more control. Meet and greet, if you live next door or very, very close by and you prefer to meet and greet, try and do that, but keep that in mind. Do not try and engage them in a conversation. Pass them the keys, pleasantries, and you're off. You can give them your number, ask them to reach out to you whenever they need to, but meet and greet, try and avoid if you can. And even if you have to, just pass the keys and that's it. Building staff, if you have a building staff in the property, if you have a concierge, yes, they can pass on the keys as well. People won't mind as much as meet and greet in that option. The next one is provide the right information at a right time. So if a guest books 6 months down the line, do not send them check-in instructions right away. Keep informing them of your house rules. Confirm the reservation. Tell them this is your booking, because people do make mistakes sometimes. They book for next year, and it's a very commonly made mistake on Airbnb. They do not look at the year and they book the property for next year. So it's very important to confirm the reservation. Say, yeah, I've got your reservation for 5 people on these and these dates, so that you clarify that straight away. Check-in and check-out time. Keep reminding your guest about the check-in and check-out time. People will try and take advantage if you do not specifically write in your message. They will say, oh, sorry, I didn't notice. We are still, waking up and all that. Keep reminding them. It will keep your life easy and your cleaners happy. Remind house rules. On Airbnb, you will be able to set your own house rules. You can say no parties. And one house rule which I always recommend is mention that no undeclared guests on the property. That keeps off people from having 10 guys over, and when you ask, they will say, oh, they've just come for a coffee. No undeclared guest in the property. And the main reason for is your property isn't insured if there are more people than the booking. That's if someone says, can I have someone coming over for a drink or coffee? Say, please, no, that voids my Airbnb insurance. No guests allowed in my property. If you want to meet them, go meet them outside somewhere. Detailed travel instructions. Provide them as many instructions as you can. Make it foolproof. Tell them exactly what they need to do to get to your property from the nearest public transport, or if you have an airport, if you have a train station or a bus stop, or even a taxi. In Edinburgh, I tell them, get off from airport and tell the taxi driver this, and they will understand, and take a black cab. Don't take an Uber because they're not so experienced, that kind of stuff. Try and make it as simple as you can. On Airbnb, it's 50% of the battle is won once the guest is successfully checked in without any problems. They'll be very happy. The next one is provide instructions for appliances. It will make a lot easier for you. People will be coming from all over the globe. They are not used to the appliances we use in UK, how things work in UK. Try and stick simple instructions everywhere you can, even on remote control. Say, press this button and you will have Netflix on the TV. Stove, if you have an induction stove, it's a very common query. People ask, hey, the stove isn't working because it's an induction hob. So write a sticker next to it. The stove won't work until you put a pan on it. So try and stick those simple instructions. We think things are obvious, but not to everyone else. People will be coming from different parts of the world. Not necessarily they will be used to what your property has. and it will save you from a lot of back and forth communication every night. The next one is practical hosting tips. I'll quickly go through them. Don't communicate with guests outside the Airbnb platform, as I mentioned earlier. Try not to fall in the trap of providing wine, transport, etc. I did the same. When I started Airbnb, I'm going to provide wine, chocolate, cookies. Try and not do that because people have allergies, nuts, gluten, everything else. You don't know what is in those cookies or chocolate you're planning to put there. If you serve alcohol, there are regulations for giving people alcohol. You don't know who you're giving the alcohol to, those kind of stuff. You do not want that. Try and keep things very, very simple for you. You just want to be rated for the quality of the accommodation you're providing. Yes, you can give tea, coffee, sugar, and I would recommend getting the individual packs for tea, coffee, sugar. On Amazon, you can buy nowadays. There is as individual wrapped packs for tea, coffee, and sugar, even the milk, and just put them in 4 different jars, and that's it. People will appreciate that. Please make sure tea, coffee, and sugar, they have very long life. They will last forever. Milk sachets have a limited life. They expire after 3 months. So do not buy a huge quantity of milk sachets if you do plan to do that. Avoid coffee machines. Coffee machines are difficult to look after. So if you're not the one who's going to be doing the cleaning every time, or if you're not planning to visit the property very, very frequently, try and avoid giving complicated coffee machines. There will be mold in there and people don't look after them. French press is okay. If you want to give a French press, that is fine, but try and avoid a coffee machine. Minimize communication from day one. As I mentioned earlier, try and avoid unnecessary communication. Stick instructions on everything you can. Give them enough information. Try and make your property foolproof. Keep a secret key somewhere close to the property. A very handy tip. Keep a secret lock or a lockbox somewhere close to the property, because there can be times where you're not around and the guest needs a key. They've lost a key. I needed it once in the last 4 years, but it was very handy. Someone called me at 2:00 in the night. They were on a night out, and on their way back, they lost the key. I had a secret lockbox. I led them to the lockbox. They took the key, and that's it. It will save you a lot of hassle at some point if things go wrong. Also, cleaner forgets keys. They do forget. You will be around and you want to go straight to the property. Very handy if you can keep a secret key somewhere near the property. It doesn't have to be next to the door or next to the same lockbox which you mainly use. Just keep it somewhere you can lead someone to. Keep extra supplies in a storage with a combination lock. Again, it will be very useful. Try and keep all the cleaning supplies and everything in a storage in your property, and keep a combination lock on it. People will have accidents in staying in a property. They will spill wine. They will need extra towels, and in those scenarios, you can just lead them to that storage, secret storage. Give them the combination lock. They can have themselves and then lock it again. It will save you traveling to the property at odd times, because people do need extra supplies sometimes, when things go wrong. The next one is your biggest enemy can be the amazing photos of your property. So do not try and hire the best photographer in town. They come with expensive lights and cameras, amazing photos, but when the guest comes, it's not what they saw in the photos. So try and keep the photos close to what your property is like. You can do it with your phone. If you don't want to pay someone, you can just hold the camera at your belly button and just stand in 4 corners of every space in your property and take photos. Try and take photos of the things which guests will be able to use. Like open the drawers in the kitchen, take the photos of pots and pans and spoons they will be able to use. Show them the bathroom, very important for people. Show them how the property looks from outside. It's very essential for people to see the property, what kind of place this is, what kind of street this is. It gives them a sense of security, especially when someone is traveling with kids and families. So try and have those kind of things. That's more important than having amazing looking photos. Try and show everything. You can also request Airbnb photographer to come and take the photos for you. That's the link. It's not readily available, but I will share this link with you. You can just go to this link. Airbnb will ask you for your property ID, and they'll also explain. You can request a photographer for Airbnb. They will send you a quote, and it's generally very cheap. I think in Edinburgh, they've quoted me $67 US, which comes to about £45, £50 for my property for 2-bedroom apartment. So yeah, try and use Airbnb photographer if you don't mind spending that much. It doesn't cost a lot. The amenities you provide decide the kind of guest you will get. Again, if you have all single beds in your property, you will have lots of bachelors and stags coming in. If you have a double bed and 2 single beds, you will have family with 2 young kids. If you have all double beds, all the couples will be coming. If you give cots and high chair, people traveling with kids will come to your property. If you give a high-speed internet, table and chair, people who are traveling on business will be coming to your property. So keep those things in mind. What kind of people you want to attract to your property when you're doing that basic setup of the beds and furniture in your property. If you have sensitive neighbors, inform your guest in advance. Keep telling your guest. In Edinburgh, it's a very common problem. I do tell my guests I have sensitive neighbors. Please try and keep things quiet. If you are not unsure of the buzzer you need to press, rather pressing other buzzers or all the buzzers, give me a call and I will lead you to it. But keep them informed. People do appreciate it, and they will try and follow if you keep them in. If you send that message before they're due to arrive, letting them know how sensitive your neighbors are. The last one is keep insect and rodent free. Make sure your property doesn't have mice or cockroaches or anything else. Absolutely no. If the guest complains about having something like that in your property, Airbnb will not hesitate to relocate the guest straight away. You will be asked to do a professional cleaning of the property, get it professionally removed, and then you will need to provide a certificate before you can list your property again. So try and keep your property insect and rodent free as much as you can.